Welcome to a deep dive all about educational finance. We've got a whole bunch of research and articles and even your own notes to dig into.
It's going to be an interesting one.
It is. It's one of those things that you don't really think about a whole lot unless you're in the thick of it.
Yeah, or unless you have kids.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's something that impacts all of us.
Absolutely. Educational finance is about how we as a society and as individuals fund and plan for education. And it goes from like really personal stuff, like how am I going to pay for books this semester, to like national level policies.
Yeah. Thinking about the different ways that our governments are handling funding for education across the board.
Absolutely. And everything in between.
Yeah. So why should someone care about this?
Well, it's not just about, dry economics and numbers.
Right.
This is really about people's lives.
It's true.
It's about opportunities.
Yeah, education's often called the cornerstone of society, right? But money can be a huge barrier for so many people.
And unfortunately.
And I feel like this deep dive is all about understanding those barriers and how we can make education more accessible and affordable for everyone.
Absolutely.
Not just for the select few.
Yep. And when you think about, the impact this has, we're talking about people from all different backgrounds having access to a good education.
Yeah.
We're talking about how funding actually impacts the quality of education.
Right.
And ultimately how it even impacts things like economies.
Yeah. If you have a more educated society, everybody benefits.
Exactly. Studies have shown that investing in education is one of the most powerful tools that we have to actually reduce inequality.
Wow.
And it has been shown that for every dollar that's invested in early childhood education, society actually receives a return of between $7 and $10.
Wow, that is incredible.
And that's through things like, increased earnings for individuals, improved health outcomes, and even reduced crime rates.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty significant.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It really is like a ripple effect, right?
Absolutely.
When more people have access to quality education, they have a better chance of, getting out of tough situations like breaking cycles of poverty, achieving financial stability. And it really benefits everybody in the long run.
It's a win-win for sure. But let's be real, there are some major challenges when we talk about educational finance.
Oh, yeah.
One of the biggest ones is the rising cost of education.
Oh, my gosh.
It's just skyrocketing.
Books, tuition, living expenses.
Yeah.
It's enough to make anyone's head spin.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember applying for college.
Oh, yeah.
And just being completely overwhelmed by the cost.
Yeah, it felt like a mountain to climb.
Huge mountain. And that actually brings us to another big challenge that we see in educational finance, and that's student loan debt.
Oh, yeah. That's a biggie.
It's a global issue, and it impacts graduates' financial stability for years and years after they leave school.
Years.
In the U.S. alone, student loan debt has surpassed $1.7 trillion.
That is a crazy number.
It's a staggering number.
Yeah. It's a huge burden for so many people, delaying major life decisions like buying a house or starting a family.
Right.
And it's not just the debt itself.
Right.
It's the fact that funding for education isn't equal across the board.
That's right. Schools in low-income areas often receive less funding, which perpetuates a cycle of disadvantage.
Yeah, like this domino effect.
Exactly.
Lack of funding leads to fewer resources, lower quality education, and ultimately limited opportunities for those students from disadvantaged backgrounds. It's a systemic issue, for sure. And on top of all that, we also have this thing called financial literacy.
Right.
A lot of people just don't understand.
Especially young adults
don't
understand loans and budgeting and saving and how that all plays into education.
It's like trying to navigate this incredibly complex system.
It is.
Without a map.
It's like a maze.
Yeah. And then you add in the fact that sometimes government funding just isn't enough to meet the needs of these educational institutions and the students that they're serving.
It often falls short.
Yeah. So we've got this web of challenges.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious to learn more about the solutions.
Me too.
What can we do to make education more affordable and accessible for everyone?
Yeah. Let's dive into that.
Should we explore some of the strategies?
Let's do it.
Okay.
I think it's important to remember, that while the challenges are real, they're not insurmountable.
Okay. Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. So we've talked about the challenges, but now I want to talk about the solutions.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Let's get hopeful.
Absolutely.
So let's start with some of the more traditional options for funding education, like scholarships and grants.
Oh,
Like,
no.
these are like golden tickets, right?
They absolutely are.
Free money for education. You don't have to repay it.
That's right.
No wonder everyone's trying to get them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like winning the lottery for education.
Exactly. So can you tell me a little bit more about like how they work? I know there are some that are merit-based and others that are need-based.
Yeah, sure. So scholarships are often awarded based on like academic achievements or talents or specific skills that you might have.
Okay.
So for example, you might find scholarships that are specifically for STEM majors or students who excel in music or athletics.
Okay.
And then on the other hand, grants are typically need-based, and so they're aimed at supporting students from low-income backgrounds.
Gotcha.
So a good example of this is the Pell Grant in the U.S.
Hmm.
This provides financial aid to undergraduate students who demonstrate exceptional financial need.
Okay. So let's say you've exhausted all those options. You've looked
Yeah.
at all the scholarships and grants that are available.
Yeah.
What's next?
So then you can look into affordable loan programs.
Right.
And these are designed to make borrowing for education less daunting.
Okay.
They offer lower interest rates and flexible repayment options, like income-based repayment plans.
Yeah. Can you give me an example of how an income-based repayment plan might work?
Yeah, so let's say you graduate and get a job,
Mm.
and that job pays you $40,000 a year.
Okay.
With an income-based repayment plan, your monthly loan payments might be capped at, say, 10% of your discretionary income.
Okay.
So instead of having a fixed monthly payment that might be really difficult for you to manage,
Right.
your payments are adjusted based on how much you're actually earning.
Gotcha. So it's more manageable.
Yeah.
Much more manageable.
So I think what's really important here is that people have a good understanding of financial aid in general,
Absolutely.
like knowing what's out there and available to them.
I agree completely. There's a whole world of resources out there, you know, from government programs to private foundations,
Yeah.
even institutional aid that's offered by colleges and universities themselves.
Right.
But you're right, they're only helpful if people actually know about them.
Right. You've got to know what you're working with.
Exactly.
So what can people do to learn more about financial aid? Well, I think a great first step is to just do your research.
Okay.
Start by checking out the resources that are available on the Federal Student Aid website.
Okay.
They have a ton of information on grants, loans, scholarships.
Great.
You can also reach out to like a financial aid advisor at your school,
Right?
or even just a trusted financial professional.
Yeah. You know what I was also thinking, like, you can even start planning for education expenses now,
Oh, for sure.
even if you're not in school yet.
Absolutely. It's never too early.
Like saving,
Yep, saving early is huge.
especially when you consider things like 529 plans.
Yes, those are great.
For those who don't know, those are tax-advantaged savings accounts specifically for education expenses.
Exactly.
And the earlier you start, the more time your money has to grow.
Yeah, it can make a huge difference in the long run.
So it's like planting a seed and then watching it grow.
Watching it flourish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But, you know, traditional options aren't always enough.
Yeah, that's true.
And sometimes you need to get a little creative
A little outside the box.
with how you're going to fund your education.
Yeah.
So I know there are all these kind of new approaches emerging that are shaking things up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm really fascinated by this whole idea of crowdfunding for education.
Oh, me too.
It's really taken off in recent years.
It's really popular, and it's
Mhm.
a fantastic way for students to actually raise funds for their education by like leveraging the power of the crowd.
Yeah.
So through platforms like GoFundMe or Kickstarter, they can create online campaigns and share their stories with a wide audience.
Yeah.
And that allows them to tap into the generosity of like friends and family, even complete strangers who believe in their education goals.
It's like a modern day patronage system for education.
It really is.
And it's not just about the money, right?
Yeah, absolutely not.
It's also about, you know, building a community of support around the student.
Exactly. Knowing that you have a whole network of people who are, cheering you on and invested in your success.
Yeah.
That's incredibly motivating.
Like a whole team of cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, now let's talk about something a little more complex.
Okay.
Income share agreements.
IDIS.
ISIS.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you break those down for us?
Sure. So ISAs are a relatively new financing model.
Okay,
They're an alternative to traditional student loans.
gotcha.
So instead of taking out a loan with a fixed interest rate, students agree to pay back a percentage of their future income
Okay.
for a set period of time after graduation.
So it's almost like investing in yourself,
Exactly.
where like if you're doing well, and you have a higher income, you're contributing more to the repayment.
Hmm.
But if you're in a lower paying job, your payments are lower.
That's right.
So it kind of like helps balance things out a little bit.
Exactly. It aligns incentives between the student and the investor.
Right.
Because in this case, the investor is essentially betting on your future success.
Right.
So it's a way to share the risk and the reward of education.
But I imagine there are also potential drawbacks.
Of course.
Like what if your income is lower than expected?
Yeah. Or you end up paying back more than you would with a traditional loan.
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
Yeah.
It's really important to carefully evaluate the terms of any ISA
Okay.
and consider your career prospects.
Right.
Before you commit to anything, you need to really understand what percentage of your income you're going to be paying back,
Yeah.
the length of the repayment period, and, if there are any caps on the total amount that you could owe.
Gotcha. So do your due diligence
Absolutely.
research
Yeah.
research
Oh,
before you sign anything.
yes.
Are there any other kind of creative solutions we should talk about?
Yeah, so another model that's out there is the pay-as-you-earn program.
Okay.
And this also ties your loan repayment to your actual income.
Okay.
These programs are often government-sponsored,
Okay.
and they can be a great option for students who are worried about having really high monthly payments right after they graduate.
Right. So it's kind of like a built-in safety net in a way.
Exactly. It makes sure that your loan repayments are manageable and don't completely derail your financial stability.
Right, because you're just starting out.
Yeah, those early years when you're just launching your career
Right.
can be tough.
Yeah, for sure. And so all of these different models, they really show that the landscape of educational finance is changing
Absolutely.
and becoming more flexible and responsive to, individual needs and circumstances.
That's right. It's moving away from that one-size-fits-all approach to student loans
Yeah.
and recognizing that everybody's path is different.
Right. Everyone's situation is different.
Exactly.
But even with all these solutions, I still think there's this huge need for personal financial literacy.
Absolutely. It's crucial no matter what financing path you choose.
It's like having a toolkit to navigate all of this.
Mm.
What are some of the key concepts that you think everyone should understand?
Well, I think understanding basic budgeting is essential.
Yeah.
Knowing how to track your income and expenses, creating a realistic budget, and then sticking to it.
Right.
That's really important for managing your finances.
Yeah.
And of course, understanding how loans actually work, including interest rates and repayment terms.
Yeah. It's like having a roadmap that guides you through these big financial decisions.
Exactly.
It's not just about the cost of education, but also about the return on investment.
That's right. What are you actually gaining?
Yeah. What are you gaining from your education? What kind of career opportunities is it going to open up for you?
Exactly. You got to think long term.
Long term.
Yeah. Think about the value that education is adding to your life and your earning potential.
Absolutely. And, something I feel really strongly about
Yeah.
is that educational institutions should be playing a more active role in teaching financial literacy.
Yes, I agree completely.
Like it should be part of the curriculum.
Absolutely. If we integrated financial education into what we're already teaching, it would give students the knowledge and skills they need to make these decisions.
Yeah.
Not just during their studies, but throughout their lives.
Right? Like giving them a superpower.
It is, yeah. The superpower.
The ability to make good choices and have financial well-being.
It's an investment that pays off for a lifetime.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual benefits, right?
Right.
It's when more people are financially literate, it contributes to a more stable economy overall.
Absolutely.
It's a win-win.
It is.
So we've talked about the challenges, the solutions, the importance of, having that personal knowledge base. Now I'm going to zoom out.
Okay.
And look at the bigger picture.
Okay.
How does educational finance impact our communities and the world at large?
Yeah, it goes way beyond individual students, doesn't it?
It really does.
The way we fund and support education has a huge impact on our communities, our nations, even the global landscape.
Yeah, I'm really interested to learn more about that. Okay, so we've talked about all these different ways to pay for education, from student loans to crowdfunding to ISAs.
Lots of options.
But now I really want to zoom out and look at the big picture.
Yeah.
How does all of this impact our communities and the world at large?
It's huge.
Yeah.
Educational finance has this ripple effect that goes way beyond just individual students.
Right.
When we invest in education, we're not just investing in individuals, we're investing in the future of our communities and the world.
Totally. So what does that actually look like?
Well, imagine a community where everyone has access to a good education.
Okay.
No matter, their background or their financial situation.
Like it.
What would that community be like?
I mean, I would imagine that it would be a place where everybody has the opportunity to reach their full potential.
Right.
People would be more likely to get good paying jobs and be contributing to the local economy.
Yep.
And there would be less poverty and probably lower crime rates. It sounds like a pretty ideal place to live.
It does. And it's not just a utopian dream, you know? Studies have shown that there's a really strong connection between education levels and economic growth. When more people are educated, they're more likely to start businesses, they're more likely to create jobs, and they drive innovation.
Right.
It benefits everybody.
It's like planting a seed that grows into a whole forest.
Exactly.
So, okay, we've said that investing in education is obviously good for individuals, it's good for communities, but what about the global impact?
Well, on a global scale, countries with strong education systems, they're more competitive, they're more innovative, they're more prosperous, they attract more investments, they drive technological advancements, and they really contribute to solving some of those big global challenges.
So basically, if we want to create a better future for everyone, investing in education is key.
It's essential.
It's not just a nice to have, it's a must have.
Absolutely. I think education is truly the key to unlocking, you know, human potential and building a better future for everybody.
It's like giving everybody the tools they need.
The toolbox.
To build a good life,
And it's not just about like technical skills either. It's about critical thinking. It's about problem solving. It's about being adaptable and being able to like adjust to a world that's constantly changing.
Those are the skills that you need to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've talked a lot about why educational finance is important, but what about how we actually make sure education is properly funded and accessible for everyone?
That's a big question.
It is.
I think one of the most important things is to really recognize that education is a shared responsibility.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
It's not just the government's responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility.
Gotcha.
We can all do things like advocate for policies that support education.
Okay.
You know, advocate for good funding for education. We can support organizations that are working to make education more accessible.
Yeah.
We can volunteer our time. We can volunteer our resources to help students.
Right. There's so many ways to make a difference.
There really are.
I love that. It's a call to action.
It is.
For everybody. To be part of the solution.
We can't just sit back and wait for someone else to fix it.
Yeah, got to do our part.
Exactly. And, you know, even small actions can have a big impact.
Yeah.
Every donation, every volunteer hour, every time you have a conversation with somebody about how important education is, all of that contributes to making things better.
Awesome. So as we wrap up this deep dive into educational finance, what's the one thing you want our listener to take away from this conversation?
I think the most important thing to remember is that education is an investment.
Okay.
It's an investment that's worth making.
Yeah.
And it's an investment in ourselves, in our communities, and in our future.
I love that.
And while there are definitely challenges that we need to overcome, there are solutions out there.
Yeah.
And by working together, we can actually make education more affordable, more accessible.
More equitable.
And more equitable.
And for everyone.
For everyone.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
It was my pleasure.
This was a really great conversation.
Yeah, it was a good one.
And to our listener, we hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of educational finance and all the ways that it impacts our world.
Yeah.
Remember, knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
So go out there and learn more.
Learn more.
Get involved in your community.
Advocate for change.
And let's all work together. To make education a reality for everyone.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And until next time, keep learning and keep questioning.